Do you ever feel like you're just going through daily life, doing the same things over and over? Stuck with the same bad habits that you've been trying to quit for years, and the same good habits that you're still trying to stick to. It's usually around New Year's Eve when you get a fresh boost of motivation and you promise that this year will be different, only to find yourself back at the start once your motivation runs out. So now the question is, how do you actually stick to new habits and break your old ones? To get these answers, we're going to be looking at Atomic Habits by James Clear. We are going to deep dive into topics like goals versus systems, identity-based habits, and also James' 4 steps to building new habits and breaking old ones. Atomic Habits. Small changes often go unnoticed, but they can completely change your trajectory. Imagine you're flying a plane from Los Angeles to New York City. If the nose of the plane is pointed just 1% off course, almost an imperceptible change in direction, when you take off, you will end up nearly 150 miles away from your intended destination. Similarly, improving by just 1% each day might seem insignificant, but over time, it becomes incredibly powerful and can completely change the trajectory of our lives in good ways and bad. Massive action versus 1% improvements. Often we find ourselves focusing on what big changes or massive actions we can take. We convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it is losing weight, reading a book, or any other goal, we believe that we need to make extraordinary improvements that other people will notice or mention. Meanwhile, simply improving by 1% isn't noticeable at times, but it can have a far greater impact over time. Here's how the maths works out. Getting 1% better each day for 1 year makes you 37 times better by the end. Conversely, getting 1% worse each day can nearly bring you down to zero. Small wins or setbacks accumulate into something much larger over time. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The effect of your habits multiply as you repeat them. What might seem like little to no progress at the start, the impact that they have over months or even years is enormous. Truth about progress. We often expect our progress to be linear. At the very least, we hope it will come quickly. However, in reality, the results of our efforts are often delayed. It is not until months later that we realize the value of the work that we put in. This can result in a valley of disappointment, where we feel discouraged because after putting in work for a long time, we're still not seeing tangible results. However, this work was not wasted. It is simply accumulating in the background, and it is not till much later that the value of our efforts are revealed. Almost something like a snowball effect. Often we make small changes and then after some time we see no results, so we stop. We will go to the gym for a few days or weeks and wonder why we're still unfit or out of shape. But if we stick to the habit of going, eventually we start noticing changes in our body and our fitness, changes that weren't visible initially. Goals versus systems. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Prevailing knowledge will say that you need to set specific, actionable goals, whether that is to get into better shape, make more money, or spend time with family. But James believes that goals are merely a target and your systems are what leads you to your goals. Goals are about the results you want to achieve, while systems are about the processes that lead you to those results. Ask yourself this. If you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your systems, would you still succeed? James believes that you would. While goals are good for giving you direction, systems are best for making progress. Here are some problems with focusing only on goals. Win or lose equals the same goal. If successful and unsuccessful people have the same goals, then the goal cannot be what differentiates the winners from the losers. Only a momentary change. If you set yourself the goal of cleaning your room and you make the effort to clean it, then you will have a clean room. But if you have the same bad habit that led to your room being untidy, then you will just end up at the start again because you did not change your system. Either or conflict. Goals create an either or conflict. Either you achieve your goal and you're successful, or you did not and you're a failure, ignoring the process that you made along the way. Goals versus long-term progress. If your goal is to run a marathon, then you most likely will remain motivated until you cross that finish line. But then what happens next? You no longer have the motivation to continue training since the goal is no longer there. So more often than not, we just stop. Systems for atomic habits. If you're having trouble with changing your habits, then the problem isn't you, but your system. Bad habits repeat themselves not because we don't want to change, but because we got the wrong system for change. Focusing on the overall system rather than a single goal is much more important for habit change. While big changes are often more flashier and more noticeable, it's the small improvements that we make daily that will lead to success. 3 layers of behavior change. The first layer is changing your outcomes. In this level, you are concerned with changing your results. Whether it is losing weight or writing a book, most of your goals are associated with this level of change. The second layer is changing your processes. This layer is focused on changing your habits and systems. Whether that's starting a new workout routine or a reading routine, most of the habits that you build are associated with this level of change. The third and deepest layer is changing your identity. This level is concerned with changing your beliefs about yourself and your self-image. Most of the beliefs and biases that you hold are associated with this level. Most people start the process of building habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. This leads to an outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. Building identity-based habits. The key to lasting habits is to start with a new identity. Your current behaviors are a reflection of your current identity. True behavior change is identity change. Improvements will always be temporary until they become a part of who you are. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. Our behaviors are usually a reflection of our identity. To change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself. James mentions 2 steps to changing your beliefs. The first is that you need to decide the type of person that you want to be. What are your principles and values? Who do you want to become? These are big questions and you're probably not sure where to begin. But you do know what kind of results you want, so start from there and work backwards. Ask yourself, who is the type of person who can get the outcome I want? For example, who is the type of person who could write a book? They are probably someone who is consistent and creative. Now your focus shifts from writing a book to becoming someone who is consistent and creative. Once you understand the type of person you want to be, you can take small actions to becoming that person. The second step is to prove your identity to yourself with small wins. Let's take me for example. I want to become someone who is healthy and fit. So I take steps to proving this new identity to myself. I often ask myself questions like, would a healthy person eat a chocolate or get a fruit for a snack? These questions help me to reinforce my desired identity and move me closer to my desired outcome. How to build habits. The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. Cravings are the motivational force behind every habit. Response is the actual habit that you perform. And finally, reward is the end goal of the habit. For instance, your phone buzzes, which is the cue. You want to know who messaged you, which is your craving. So you take out your phone to check. That is your response. And finally, you get the satisfaction of rereading the message, which is your reward. Together, these 4 steps form a neurological feedback loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Cue, craving, response, reward. That ultimately allows you to create atomic habits. This cycle is known as the habit loop. James transforms these 4 steps into a practical framework which he refers to as the 4 laws of behavior change.
Law 1. Make it obvious.
Habit scorecard. One of the greatest challenges that we face when we start changing our habits is understanding and being aware of what we already do. You can change this with your habit scorecard. Make a list of your daily habits and look at each behavior and ask yourself whether it is good, bad, or neutral. If it is a positive, put a plus next to it. If it is negative, then a minus. And if it's neutral, then an equal to sign. Your list may look something like this. As you create your habit scorecard, there is no need to change anything. You're simply trying to understand what you are currently doing. Implementation intention. This is a plan that you make beforehand about when and where to act. Simply how you intend to implement a particular habit. There are a wide range of cues that triggers behaviors, but the 2 most common cues are time and place. The implementation intention leverages both of these. The format for creating an implementation intention that focuses on habits is I will, behavior, at, time, in, location. For example, I will read, which is the behavior, before I sleep, which is the time, and in bed, which is the location. Habit stacking. One of the best ways to build a new habit is to identify a habit that you already do and stack your new habit on top of it. This is where your habit scorecard comes in, as you now know what habit you already do. Habit stacking is a part of implementation intentions, but rather than focusing on the time and location, you focus on the habits that you already do. The habit stacking formula is after current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I get into bed, I will read. Or after I have my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. It can be a range of different things. So just see what you already do and what you want to do and see where you can fit it in. Design your environment. Every habit is initiated with a cue. The more obvious the cue, the more likely we are to perform the habit. Unfortunately, the environments we live or work in make it difficult to perform certain actions because there is no obvious cue. Cues that are subtle or hidden are easy to ignore, which makes doing our desired behavior even more difficult. The key is to make your cues a part of your environment. Focus on making them visible by placing cues throughout your house if possible. For example, if you want to drink more water, you can keep full bottles around the places that you spend the most time at, whether that's your desk or your bed. Breaking a bad habit. Make it invisible. If you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you can only rely on your self-control for so long. Cutting a bad habit at the source is a much more reliable method, and one way to do that is to make it invisible. For example, if you have trouble going to sleep at night because you get caught up on your phone or scrolling social media, then keep your phone in another room or charge it far away from your bed so that you can't use it in your bed. If it's out of sight, it's most likely going to be out of mind. Law 2. Make it attractive. If the habit you're trying to set isn't immediately attractive to you on its own, there are a couple of tactics that you can use to make it attractive. Temptation bundling. This is where you pair the action that you want to do with the action that you need to do. By linking these behaviors, you make it easier to build good habits because the reward for the desired behavior is immediate. For example, if you enjoy watching Netflix but need to exercise more, you could create a rule where you can only watch Netflix while you're on the treadmill. This way you associate a pleasurable activity, watching Netflix, with a beneficial one, exercising. Temptation bundling can be a game changer for habit formation, make it easier and more enjoyable to stick to your goals. Join a culture where your behavior is the normal. The culture that we live in determines which behaviors are attractive to us. We generally adopt habits that are praised and approved by the culture that we surround ourselves with because humans generally want to fit in and belong. One of the most effective things you can do to build habits is join a culture where 1. Your desired habit is the normal, and 2. You already have something common with the group. For example, if you want to work out more, then you could get a gym partner and work together to reinforce your new habit. Reprogram your brain to enjoy hard habits. You can make hard habits more attractive if you can learn to associate them with a positive experience. You can do this by reframing how you think about that habit. Let's say you find working out hard. Instead of looking at it as I need to work out, you can look at it as I get to improve my health and build muscle. This simple reframe can bring out a positive outlook on what your brain previously perceived as hard. Breaking a bad habit. Make it unattractive. To break a habit, you need to do the opposite. You need to highlight the negatives of doing that habit to make it as unattractive as possible. For example, if you're trying to break the habit of smoking cigarettes, then you could say, it makes my lungs worse, it's expensive. There's so many different things you can do, so make it as unattractive as possible so that you don't do it again. Law 3. Make it easy. How long does it take to form a new habit? During habit formation, a behavior becomes increasingly automatic the more we repeat it. As we repeat an activity, our brain becomes more efficient at doing it. So it's important to look at framing habit formation in terms of number of repetitions rather than amount of time. Reduce friction, the law of least effort. The easier a habit is, the more likely you are to follow through. Reading one page of a book every day doesn't take much effort, but reading 10 pages takes a lot more effort. By reducing the amount of effort required, you are able to follow through with that habit much easier. This means reducing the number of steps between you and the habit you want, and increasing the amount of steps between you and the habit that you don't want. Prime your environment. This ties into what we mentioned earlier in Law 1. You need to prime your environment to make your habit cues more visible. Prime your environment beforehand reduces the amount of steps needed to take action. This can be as simple as taking out your running shoes the night before so that it's easier for you to get done in the morning. The 2-minute rule. Using the 2-minute rule can really help you slowly build small habits that lead to bigger ones. Find a quick 2-minute version of your desired outcome. You need to downscale your goals to make them easier to start. If the goal is to work out, then the 2-minute rule can be as simple as putting on your shoes and stretching for 2 minutes. You need to get the routine put into place and then slowly build up the difficulty once you've mastered the 2-minute habit. How to break a bad habit. Make it difficult. To make a habit more difficult, think of the barriers that you can add to make it harder. If you play too much PlayStation, then unplug your console and put the controllers away after every session to make it harder to play the next time. Law 4. Make it satisfying. The most important law in forming habits. The feeling of pleasure sends a message to your brain that this feels good, we should do it again. When this happens, your brain learns to repeat this behavior. The first 3 laws play a role in doing the habit for the first time, while this law's role is to make the habit be repeated next time, rewarding yourself. It's important to make sure you feel successful when you complete a habit. The feeling of success is a signal that your effort was worth it. It is especially satisfying to make progress, and you can monitor your progress in different ways. You can use visual monitors to help with this, as these small wins can go a long way. If you read only one page of a book, it might seem like nothing at the start, but over time, as you watch the page numbers increase and you monitor your progress, it will help you finish the book. Habit tracking. You can even use a habit tracker as a way to monitor your progress. Tracking becomes a reward as you don't want to break your streak. Marking a calendar or ticking a task off your to-do list is satisfying, thus you want to repeat the behavior. Personally, I use an app called DaySins to help track my habits. Never miss twice. It is inevitable that you are going to have bad days, whether that's at work, at home, or at the gym. But what's important is showing up and not breaking that habit chain. People often tend to quit once they break the chain or miss a day, but you need to try and never miss twice. Even if you had to skip a workout for whatever reason, don't miss the next one. Keeping the chain going is crucial to sticking with new habits. Even if you have to do a small version, say your goal was to do 50 push-ups this session. Even if you only do 2 or 5, that's okay, because you showed up, and that's what's important. How to break a bad habit. Make it unsatisfying. A behavior is less likely to occur when pain is associated with it. An accountability partner is a good way to keep these habits in check. We would much rather not do a bad habit than be held accountable by someone we respect. For example, I owe you $1 every time I smoke. Using this method, I not only lose money, but I also lose the respect for my partner as I did not do what I said I would do. Okay guys, this brings us to the end of the summary. I would highly recommend that you pause the video here and take a screenshot of the cheat sheet that I have on the screen now so that you can always remember these techniques. Okay, so while I did dive into the most important aspects of building new habits and breaking old ones, the author dives into a lot more deeper and more complex techniques in the book, so I would highly recommend that you get yourself a copy because I believe that every bookshelf deserves this masterpiece. If you feel like I missed anything, let me know down below. I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. Also, comment down below if there's any videos that you'd want me to do next, or if there's any books that you want me to summarize next. I really appreciate each and every one of your comments, and actually, this video was requested by one of you. So I just want to say thank you and see you next time.